You're upright, but your still head's here because we do not want head forward posture.
Have you seen all the people? Are you watching our population do this? You notice it. It's got to make
It's
you, I notice
terrible.
all the time that people are this now.
And it used to be, I'd see that start, like we call that a kyphosis. We'd start to see it getting rounded at like maybe 28 to 30 years old. I'm seeing it in 10-year-olds now without a cervical curvature.
Dr. Mary Collings is the only person I know, the only woman I know, who is the chiropractic expert for two male sports teams, both the Stars and the Dallas Mavericks. And she's here to talk to us about health, sleep, and everything in between. Dr. Mary, welcome to SmarterUmedia.
Thank you for having me today.
Well, we're going to get you to the chicken timer because it keeps tapping me on the shoulder going, hey, it's my turn. It's my turn. You know so much about so many things. You don't just know where the bodies are buried. You know how to make them feel better. So make me just a little bit smarter.
Well, today I'd like to talk about recovery because I think it's one of the most overlooked parts of our systems. And dealing with athletes for the last 30 years, they work, they stress their bodies. We've just, in the last maybe 8 to 10, learning that we've got to also learn to recover better. And stress can be all kinds of things, just for everyone, for you, for myself. It can be a mom trying to juggle kids. It can be aging parents. It can be the traffic that we're having to choose. Stress doesn't differentiate between a superior athlete and you and myself. One of the best recovery tools we have is sleep. And I think now we've started to see it becoming such a better product. Like, there's sleep trackers. There's different ways like, oh my gosh, you can sleep better on my bed, on this bed or that bed. And I think it's important that we look at like why we sleep, why we need to sleep well, and why we need to sleep consistently. And to me, that's when we clean up. That's when the brain learns everything. We get rid of all the nasty waste products. We learn how to dream, right? We re-educate. We get hormone balances. And that, to me, is the best recovery tool that we can get. Well, to do that, I feel like we have to have a good sleep environment. Phones and everything in our house has some kind of a Wi-Fi system to it. But if we can make our bedrooms and our sleep systems more relatable, getting rid of the blue light, getting rid of the TVs, I think we could sleep better, then we can heal better, and then that way become better people. Okay.
Oh,
I was close. I was so close.
What an imposition. Sleep. Let's go dive as deep as you want to dive. So this is near and dear to my heart. I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, which is at 7,100 feet. It's high altitude, and I have trouble sleeping at high altitude. So I am literally in the process of moving from a place that I love because I cannot figure out how to get rid of periodic breathing, and I apparently am a small subset of humans who have that issue, but at least it's fixable. I just have to go somewhere else.
So we're down valley, right?
Anywhere that is not high altitude, but it truly transforms how you exist on a daily basis. Tell me some of the physical things that happen at night when I don't get good sleep, and they don't happen, that change my life.
That's when we clean up everything. It's kind of like when you plug your phone in at night. That's when it charges and it gets, it gets all its battery back and it gets everything going because you run it like crazy in the daytime. Well, the same thing goes with our body. You run it, and if you don't turn it off at night, then it can't heal. And that's where we clean up. Our battery gets re-engaged. We clean up all of like the macrophages and the nasty things that our body holds toxicity-wise. Our hormones balance. Cortisol is one of those wonderful hormones that helps us to sleep better. I always say that you can sleep when you're an infant till about 13 anywhere, then you can't sleep for 45 years, and then you can sleep again when you get to your 60s anywhere. At night is when we heal. You're not getting consistent sleep, so you might still go to bed at 10 o'clock every night and still get up at 5 o'clock every morning, but if you're not doing that consistent sleep and it's just like a little sporadic, you lose your air and you have to roll over, and then all of a sudden you find yourself gasping for air. It's so important, to understand it better, and most people don't. They just like, oh, I think I slept okay. When you sleep well, it's not about how you feel that morning. I always say, how do you feel at 2 o'clock in the afternoon? That's when you'll notice if you had a good night. It's like that you don't want to have to go take a nap. Your energy level's good. You're ready to go do more things. You're not being like, oh my gosh, I've had lunch and I need to go take a nap. I don't think I can survive it. So nighttime is heal time.
I totally get it. And I think there are specific things that you can do, what I call micro adjustments, that even if you're in the middle of a stressful time. You can do things that allow you to get there better. Present yourself in a way that gives you a better chance. And it's incremental. It's every day. You don't find a solution. You every day have a process to make your sleep better. What do? You counsel the Dirk Nowitzkis of the world and the Jalen Brunsons of the world in order for them to be the best recovered athletes that they can be. What do you tell them? And in turn, what do you tell us?
Microdosing, that's the term of the day right now. Little bitty tiny things. I always say when you first wake up in the morning, get some sunlight. Our circadian clock needs to turn on. That's why open the curtains. Maybe we go for a little tiny walk. Some people don't want to get sweaty. Just go out and go down to the end of the block and back. Just something to get it to where your body knows it's time to wake up. Then you go into a nutrition side of it. I always like to start an electrolyte first thing in the morning. We're going to feed the body just a little extra something. So that way, whatever we take in through the day, or if we get too busy and we don't drink enough, at least we know we've got something in there to help us through. Then we go into the afternoon part. If you're working at a desk, or even if you're working in retail, you have that 5-minute break, go back outside, walk around the back of the parking lot. Maybe you go up and down the hallway a little bit. Maybe we walk backwards. We challenge the brain a little bit. As we get into nighttime, I like to have everybody eat a little earlier. Then we start to wind down. That hour before bed, depending on what time that is, that's when we shut down the phones. We shut down the screen time. Maybe we read a book. Maybe we listen to a little bit of a podcast, which is always welcomed. And then we start to shut down with the lighting. I like to always get a little dimmer light. And now our circadian clock is starting to realize, oh, it's time to go the other direction. It's time to shut down and turn off everything. And little therapeutic snacks all through the day to try to just kind of keep ourselves just a little bit better.
You use a term, circadian clock. Circadian rhythm is another expression people have heard. So that is what, and how do I take advantage of knowing what you're going to tell me it is?
Well, so circadian is like when it's light outside, we wake up. When it's dark, we go to bed. But with the athletes, they play a game. Let's say it's a 7:00 game. So they have to be at the arena for like a shoot around or small practice at 9:00. Then they go home. They take a nap because they're going to be up late. Then they have to wake up from the nap, come back, eat. Then they start to get prepared for the game. Then we got to put them on a plane, possibly to go halfway across the country to play tomorrow. And then so now they're on a plane trying to get their circadian clock locked in has been very difficult, but we use a happy light, a natural sun system, so our eyes take that in. Well, same thing goes at home. Maybe you've got a happy light for the morning if you are working inside, or you're in a environment that's dark all the time. But we find that with the athletes, if we do that on the plane and we put a happy light with them on the plane, it'll keep them awake till they get to the hotel so they can sleep in a natural setting at that point.
I want a happy light. We all want a happy light.
You need a happy light.
I think we all need a happy light. As I understand the circadian rhythm, it is essentially the fact that we've evolved as humans over a long period of time. So Homo sapiens evolved over millions of years in environments that are not like the environments we inhabit today. They're just different. Essentially, we're wired to expect those things to happen in certain ways, and our chemicals in our body adjust to them. So when I wake up in the morning, if I don't see the sun, if I don't go take a walk, or if I don't expose myself to some light, then all of those chemicals don't know that they're supposed to start changing, that I'm supposed to start waking up, that I'm supposed to get the melatonin out of my system so that I can function during my day. Exactly the same thing happens as you get to the end. It used to be that the sun went down, and
right.
Our sun doesn't really go down. We talk about blue light, but blue light specifically is light that somewhat mimics the sun. So at night, I start to feel like I don't want to go to sleep because it's still daytime. So
right.
The circadian rhythm or clock is something that you really can take advantage of if you understand historically what humans have had. Now we have all this other stuff bombarding us, and the things you're suggesting, like getting up in the morning, getting out, moving around, not eating too late because we didn't used to eat too late, getting the light out of my eyes and calming down before I go to sleep. All of those things will help me recover and be a better sleeper.
Absolutely.
I do think it's interesting that we used to perhaps just lie and sleep on rocks.
right? Right, or
So that might
leaves, or
fly in
like all kinds of things.
that might fly in the face of everything that I just said. But if we're no
Or a
longer
nice
in
dirt
caves,
cave, right? Yeah,
yeah,
nice
okay.
dirt
So
cave.
maybe nice. I want the nice dirt. I'll sleep. I will
Yes.
sleep better. You started talking about beds and what difference they make. What do I do when I sleep? I mean, what's going on?
When you first, lie down, the brain starts shutting down, right? And so your brain is designed to roll at night. We're supposed to roll at night because that's how we balance our inner ear. And so it's a natural, but we're not supposed to wake up and be like, oh my gosh, and know that we're doing it. It should be a very casual rocking motion, right? I'm an advisor for a Circadian company, which is a sleep technology, and they've made a bed that actually, when you lie down, each spring responds to you. And so what we don't want is pressure points. We don't want that hard rock underneath our bum when we're sleeping, because it's like, oh, now it hurts. I have to roll over because I hurt. We want to roll over because our brain is telling us. That's why when you see babies, when they first learn how to get balance, you see them, they're on their tummy, they look up with their head, they turn, and then they roll over. And so they're learning where balance is. Well, we need to keep doing that as we age as well. I don't know if you've got a spouse, but all of a sudden you're on one side of the bed for the 40 years in a row. Well, you sleep facing away from that person because you don't want to hear them breathing and everything else. But then now we've gotten a pattern, we're on the same side all night long, which is not healthy for us. So we need to have that rolling motion, but we don't need to wake up and have to do it because we hurt. That's the key for that.
Aha. So I do notice that when I sleep on my left side, I have less digestive issues and things. And I try not to eat too late, as you advise, but sometimes I just can't help myself. I try to be a good citizen, but I'm not always a good citizen for myself. And so I do think I am on one side most of the night, but you're saying I'm supposed to be getting my inner ears tuned. So I should be moving, but not waking myself up when I do it.
Exactly. Exactly.
I don't want to leave sleep quite yet, but we're going to go and get a chance to talk about other types of recovery. Let's dig just a little bit deeper into something I'm aware of, which is called a chronotype. Do you believe that there are such things as chronotypes? So a type of person who's a night owl, a type of person who is a morning person. Do those things really exist, or are those habitual things that I can and maybe should change?
I feel like it's like some people are just drawn to night, some people are drawn to day, but I think we train ourselves to become that. I think in college, you stay up late. I was a big night owl then. I was like, okay, I'd stay up super late, but then you sleep till 11 o'clock. Well, of course, then it's like you get in a pattern. The pattern is what starts to get you into I just say bad habits, and then we lean towards caffeine in the morning. We lean towards like right now, like the children with energy drinks. That is a bad habit, recreating chemicals in your brain. So if we do it naturally and go with the sun, go with the sleep time with the moon, we've got to change habits to continue that betterment. Does that make sense? So yes, I think people
Absolutely.
can have a chronotype, but I think it's something they have created.
Though we should listen to ourselves. You said at 2 o'clock, I'm going to know what kind of sleep I got last night, because if I feel like I'm wiped out, that should tell me everything.
Absolutely. But no, people don't want to pay attention, like, because it's inconvenient, or I don't have time to pay attention to myself.
If you have, a Fitbit or an Apple Watch or a Oura Ring that tracks your sleep, it gets tremendously detailed. So if you get up and the first thing you do is check the electronic data of how you slept, I think you missed part of the point.
Right, exactly. So we see how we feel, and then we can go back and look and see if it matched. How much REM sleep did you have, and what position were you in when you had it? You said you're drawn to your left side, you feel better when you're on there. Is that when you get your deep sleep? Well, now if you force yourself to your left side every time rather than just naturally going there, does it create a problem later on? But at least you can tell this is where I do well. You probably have done the same thing. You wear it for a year and you're like, oh my God, I got to get off of it for a little while. I just need a break from it. I just need to see how I do. And then you kind of find yourself, well, maybe I need to get back on it again. I don't know what I did. So I think if we go internal, we can probably figure out the answers pretty well.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. What do you counsel athletes, elite athletes? What do you counsel them in terms of how much sleep they should get a night?
Well, first it needs to be good sleep. It depends on if it's road trip time, if it's home time. Everybody that works with an athlete can probably tell you, like, you see them change when they have their first child or when they first get married. So now it's not about, oh, I can do, this is all about me, 7 hours of great sleep. Well, now you've got a 3-year-old or you've got a new baby or you've got something to distract you. Then now your sleep's off. Does that affect their play? Absolutely, because now they're mentally off of their routine. They're out of their sync until it starts to become a little bit more of a day-to-day, and then they start to try to learn. But I'm sure you've seen it, 19 to 22-year-old athlete, they got no distraction. They're doing great. Well, 25 to 28 starts to change a little bit, and you see pace of play change. So it's important that we try to teach them how to sleep well. And, the younger ones that, I've been doing this 30 years, so I've seen that the athlete change as well. The younger ones like games. They like to go, they'll go on a road trip, whereas before they might go, I'll go to dinner that night. But now they just get a pizza and sit in the room and play video games against each other. So not a great wind down, not a great time to let the body have time to heal. Now, mental or physically, they're not challenged, but mentally they're up there, it's going. So I don't love that option for them, but we try to, you can always suggest, but it doesn't mean they're going to listen to you. I've learned that one too.
I've heard you discuss the 3-2-1 number.
3 hours. The first one is about food and beverage. Like I always like to eat 3 hours before bed. So you have time to digest so the brain doesn't have to work on that. It can work on your sleep pattern. The 2 is like when you start to shut down our screens, start to get the environment a little bit better. And 1 is just absolutely nothing goes in or out. It's quiet time, not TV. It's important to just have everything completely shut down. And then that way, usually you'll go to sleep very well.
So that's 3 hours before, 2 hours before, and 1 hour before you go to sleep.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, I'm sorry.
They
yes.
always want to see. There you go. Very good example. It's never ending.
They turned it out. I had them all turned off. Sorry.
We talk a lot about entrepreneurship at SmarterUmedia. It's our jam. It's what we do. You are quite the entrepreneur. You're the owner of Highland Park Spine and Sports Medicine. You have been plying your trade for decades, as you said, and you found your way into some very important halls to do that. That's part of why people want to talk to you. That makes you a pretty fantastic entrepreneur. So tell me about that process. How in the world did you find sports medicine? I know volleyball has something to do with that story.
So when I first graduated, probably about a year outside of graduation, and so I was in California, and it was the AVP Men's Sand Tour. And so it was hot. I was bored. I started walking around, and I just happened upon their medical tent and met Dr. Tim Brown, who has been a mentor to me for the last 30 years. And he was like, hey, can you help me out? I've got it, I'm shorthanded. And so there's a bunch of guys in Speedos. And I said, yes, I can help you. Let me do whatever you need. And so I just helped him out. And then I guess I did a good enough job. He had my back the next day and the next day. And then he's like, well, we're going to be in a different beach next weekend, but would you like to come back? And I said, well, I live in Dallas. I'm a student. He's like, well, if you can come back, I'm happy to have you help. And so I came back to to the school, and Dr. Parker, I went to Parker University. Parker said, well, if you can donate your time, I'll help you with the travel, but you've got to, obviously you're a student, you can't get paid, and you need to, follow under his tutelage. I was like, so I did. Well, in that travel, with the volleyball, it's when I got introduced to some of the football with the Dallas Cowboys. And I had just graduated, and that's when the hockey team had moved to Dallas. And so one of the Cowboys said, well, are you going to take care of the hockey team? I'm like, I don't know anything about hockey. He said, well, you didn't know anything about football either, so you could make sure you could still do this. And so I reached out, and that's how I started with the Dallas Stars. And so that was 1993, so it's been a while, so a lot of seasons. And then through that relationship is when the Mavericks came across, and they found me. And so now it's when I started with them, is in about 2005. So I've been with them almost for 20 years now.
So applying the chiropractic trade, but then being open to opportunities when they came and making them work, sound like that was a big part of it, right? So you find somebody, they say, can you help me in this tent?
Absolutely.
And you say yes instead of no way. you know?
Right. Well, and also to not be afraid to talk to people. Like, I think as an entrepreneur, you're always building your own business, your own brand. Like, you are your marketing. So I was never a stranger, never any reason to say no. And athletics is fun. When I first started with them, like, we're all the same age. We're all 25. Now they could be my children. So now I look at them as I'm so proud of them. I love it when they play well. I love it when they all get along. I love it when they're doing well with their trade. But then also when you see them become good people. And so, we mentioned Dirk before, he's such a good human. And I love that he did so well with his career, but also he's continuing to make a better league and a better world for everything, and his children included. But it's been fun.
It's great to find something that you enjoy and are passionate about, because it seems to drive you. When you talk about what you do, it seems as if you still truly enjoy it. That's great.
When it's not fun anymore, that's when I'll be done.
I'm sure there are other days, though. You have days. We all have days.
Of course. We always have days. Yes.
Particularly when you haven't had a good night's sleep. When someone that you've never had as a client shows up in your office, what is it that you do as an assessment? And honestly, what do you notice that I wouldn't notice?
Well, you can ask my staff. The first thing I look at is what shoes they have on their feet. That's one of the things that I find that gets overlooked in almost any, just from athletes to the general person. And if I can hear somebody come in my front door, I'm like, oh Lord, they're wearing flip-flops, which is my worst hated shoe, because I know that it's going to change their mechanics. It's going to change their gated patterns. And then, so by the time they get back to a room, and my office is open, so you can there's rooms, but I can hear and I can see when they come in, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I bet they're going to have a hip problem. So we get into the room and I'm like, oh, I said, does your hip bother you? How did you know that? I'm like, because I can hear it in your gait. I can hear it. I said, do you wear your flip-flops all the time? Every day. That's my favorite shoe. Well, guess what? So I look at the common sense part of it as well as just the spinal side of it, because it's not just, they might have an ache or an ail, but pain is what drives people in the door, but it's the dysfunction or the bad habits that maybe we have to go back and look at to pick apart, so that way we can still fix the discomfort side of it, but I don't want them to have to be in here every day. I want them to go do their own. So I always look at shoe choices first, and then I'll have them sit. And so usually even just watching somebody get up and out of a chair, and my office has different furniture, low lying, a little bit taller. And when you get somebody that's, a 7 or 6'5" and above, and you have them sit in a short chair and get up, if you can see their challenge and their you can hear the grunts and groans, you can literally already I know what I need to look at. And so some of that's the assessing. It's the day-to-day, what do they they might say, well, my golf game, I want to improve my golf game. I say, all right, but what do you do every day? Do you sit every day? Yes. How do you sit? Oh, I'm sitting on the couch with my laptop. Okay, well, here's going to be a problem. You're going to sit there for 6 hours and all of a sudden go play 18 holes of golf. It's not going to work so great for you. So sometimes it's I like questions. I like to ask questions more than I do even just to poke and prod on people, because that's going to teach me more of where I need to head with what I'm looking for. And I think the word that I love is I want people to have a better longevity, not so much just a wellness, but let's get older better. Let's learn how to be 90 and still be agile and active. Maybe we're not running marathons, but we're still able to get out of our car. We're able to get out of our chair, and we're not relying so much on a walker or a wheelchair or other people to help us. We still have that ability.
Well, how in the world do flip-flops make my hips go bad?
So our body is made of a kinetic chain. The foot should be stable, the ankle mobile, the knee stable, the hip mobile, low back stable, mid back mobile, neck stable. If we have to hold a shoe,
take me down the road.
Okay.
You did that fast. Okay.
Every other joint has a purpose. So the foot should be stable. So it's a stable joint. The ankle mobile.
Okay.
The knee stable. The hip mobile.
Okay.
Low back stable, mid back mobile, neck stable. So so every other joint has that purpose. So if you have to hold a shoe on with your toes, which is, if you've ever worn flip-flops, you got to death grip those toes on there. We've changed the stability of the foot. And most people have weak feet to begin with. So if we've already having to hold for dear life that shoe on our foot, our gait is going to change. and you do that every day, or you do it for a long period of time, some flip-flops are better than others. I will admit, they make new recovery shoes that are pleasant, but it's still something that I would not want somebody to be in long, and I wouldn't want them in to be long distances for sure. But, I've got people that they've been raised on flip-flops. Like, they're California kids that moved to Dallas, and they just love having a flip-flop. And so that's why that's my first guidance in trying to get, like, flip-flops and heating pads. They're the only two things I really have a hard no on.
No heating pads as well. That's interesting.
No heating pads. Dry heat tends to make protein disappear out of muscle. So it causes something called erythema ab igni, which is a second-degree burn of muscles. And most people lay on them too long. Like, your grandma was probably like mine. She had a heating pad on every chair. She slept with it on bed. And then you'd realize that they're just, muscle-wise, they weren't great. They were usually dehydrated. But now, moist heat I love. Hot bath, hot shower, hot tub, I'm all for. Red light, infrared, I don't mind that either. It's the dry heat I don't love.
Those are the two hard no's, but things you started to illuminate as you talked about the evaluation that you give of someone, which is how they get up, what do they do during the day. These are great indicators for all of us. So if we're sitting on a couch, you specifically used a couch, perhaps because a lot of us do that.
Yes.
It's awful. It's terrible. What do you suggest instead? Sitting on the floor? I mean, honestly, I tend to sit on the floor, but a lot of people don't like that.
When's the last time you tried to sit Indian style or crisscross applesauce? But when you do that, it's the pitch. It's like when you've got a lower, when your behind is below the knees, there's no support system. On my couch, I have a very low lying, pretty sectional, but it's too low, too deep, and too soft. So if I've got to be there long, I lift up the cushion and I put a hard decorative pillow, like right where your bum would be, and then put the cushion back over it. And that way it squares up the seat a little bit better. Same thing goes for the car seat. Like I have an Audi. It's a kind of a racing type seat, so they're all pitched. Audi, Porsche, all of the ones that have that downslope to them. And so I take, of all the weird things, you think I'm crazy, but I take a roll of paper towels down, I've dwindled it down about this big, and I swish it flat and I sit on that roll of paper towels. So like if I have to be in my car for an hour or drive to Austin for 3 hours, if I put that underneath there, it squares up the seat, because cushions sometimes made me too tall, towels kind of dissipated away, but it just kept me upright. So I'm looking for keeping the behind even with the knees on anything you can. And I know we can't sit in like a kitchen chair all day, but if I've got to do paperwork at home, I'm going to set that up to where at least I'm at a good solid chair. I'm not going to grab the laptop over on the couch because I know I will be miserable at the end of that. So some of it's just picking our battles. And like even at dinner, like I'm not a big fan of booths. I think they're too low, too deep, and too soft as well. But a nice table and chairs, or a bar seat, which is very squared usually and it's very high, I think that's a better way to sit. And I like to sit with like a little perched set, almost like you're on a pony, like on a saddle. When you have a little wider stance, that's where you balance from. We just have habits, and if we can keep those habits a little bit better, I think it keeps us a little safer.
Yeah. And so you're a spine person as a chiropractor. And so you're constantly, that's the thing that holds us up, right? If we're fighting gravity every day, as we're all fighting gravity every day.
Yeah, right.
if we're doing it, a lot of that battle's going on in the spine. So, it's really a way to continue to use it or you lose it, maybe. Huh?
Right. Yeah.
A little bit.
And I like chairs without backs on them. I like chairs without arms, because if you have to balance, like right now I'm sitting on what's called a yo-yo chair, and I have to sit here because I have to hold myself upright. But I know that when I get up, I'm actually going to be able to move better. And it's a tall seat, so that way it's not too low lying, and it's just a little bit easier to kind of maintain a good posture and position.
What do you think about standing desks? Says the guy who's standing at a standing desk.
I love the standing desk as long as people are doing it right. What I catch most people do is they still have the monitor too low. And so like I think when you can, and I like the arms to be at 90 degrees, the keyboard to be right close, because if we're standing, but we're still standing, like I call it, coach's stance, where you get the legs locked and you're kind of rocked back, you're reaching too far out, or the monitor's too low. So you're upright, but your still head's here, because we do not want head forward posture, right? When the head goes forward, we lose that integrity of that upper part of the muscle structure on your backside. And
oh my God,
most people
have
have a big
you
old
seen
head.
all the people? Are you watching our population do this? You notice it. It's got to make you, I notice all the time that people are this now. I mean,
yes.
And it's not just when they're looking, it's their entire structure. The neck is going.
Well, And it used to be, I'd see that start, like we call that a kyphosis. We'd start to see it getting rounded at like maybe 28 to 30 years old. I'm seeing it in 10-year-olds now without a cervical curvature. But all those muscles on the backside of you, the ones, trapezius, latissimus, levator scapula, all those big guys at the back, they're all woven together like a spider web for only one purpose, is to hold your head up. So when your head is down, checking your Twitter, or when your head is down, you're like even reading too low or on your phone, that weight of your head starts to make that spider web come unfurled, and then we start to lose that, which is why the shoulder's round. Well, when they do it, it's what I would call like a rock in a river, time under tension. It starts to change the shape. So it's truly not so much tech neck-ish, but it's also because it's like it's the weight of the head that's continuing to it. For whatever reason, you're looking down too much. And so it's important. That's why if you're at a standing desk, I like that monitor to be up as high as it can be to where you are at a neutral position. And also think about airway open. So for every inch that your ear gets in front of your shoulder, you lose a third of your lung volume. So if you're down here and you're down there for 20 minutes, you've lost a third of your lung volume for 20 minutes. So what happens? The brain, the heart, and the lungs take the first part of the oxygen. What little's left is your spine, the discs in your spine, muscles, ligaments, and tendons. So they get all of their oxygen from absorption, or like osmosis. And if there's not enough for everybody to go around, who takes the brunt of that would be ligaments, tendons, muscles. And that's why a lot of times when you go to look up after you've been on the phone, or you're sitting at the airport too long and you go to look up and you're like, oh, it's like everything's a little stiff and sore because it's not been fed well. So that's why it's important to always have the head into neutral.
You lose a third of the oxygen when you do this.
When your head, for every inch that the ear gets in front of the shoulder,
every inch you lose a third.
Every inch.
What if I do 4 inches? Do the math.
Well, think about it. Like you're not. Well, like again, just tuck your chin down and take a breath in. It's not that easy. So think about CPR. What's the first thing they do in CPR? Tilt the head back to open the airway. So again, if our airway is open, stuff doesn't get screwed up. Everything stays pretty, like it stays in a functional manner. But if we deplete it, and we do that every day for hours and hours and hours on end, you can see how all that, like when we talk about the little snacks of good, well, that's little snacks of bad that start to add up, become cumulative, and that's where we end up with the trouble.
Well, as we spend so much time, and you're very kind to give us your time today so that we're going to spend about an hour talking about the things that matter to all of us, but so much of our time can be in this state, whether we're typing, we're on our computer, or we have our phone and we're doing those things during the day. So we've talked about sleep at night, right? And how we prepare for that. But every moment of our day has to be an opportunity for me to do this better. What do I do during the day so that I break up that time or make sure that I'm doing counter poses? What do I do as an antidote for this screen that's in front of me?
Well, I'd say I always tell patients, like when they ask me like how many times should I do what you're asking me to do, I would say once an hour. I figure if I ask for once an hour, I might get 5 times a day. If I ask for 5, I'm only going to get 2. So I ask for a lot to get a little. I know how that works. So I would say, let's say it's in between calls. If people are doing sales calls all day, if you're in between calls, before you pick up that next call, maybe you just walk to the end of the hallway, but you walk backwards. I love backpedal for any reason. So we walk backwards. Maybe we do some quick, like little half jacks. Maybe we just march in place. But even if it's 30 seconds, that's something to try to change the monotony of the day to day. And it makes the brain wake up a little bit. It gets a little endorphin kick going. And it just also, like backwards is also making the brain work, but it's also taking all the muscles from the backside. So like you said, the countered posture, anything backwards I would love.
Walk backwards. Love that.
Walk backwards. If you're in the car, if you do sales calls, so let's say you get to your next building that you're going to go, take something into somebody. Maybe you walk up and down the hallway once before you go into there. Maybe if we stop to get gas, we walk around the building rather than just in and out quick. Like again, we're back to those little snacks when they all start to add up together. I'm a big fan of pictures. So let's say, your wife's there with you, and we're like, I need to see what he looks like when and I need you to see what you look like when you're at your standing desk. So let's say you look at it, you're like, oh my gosh, I lean over on the thing too much. Well, now that you've seen it, I think it sits better, right? Right. And I think that way now you're going to start paying more attention because you've seen what you look like into that founder. So if anything, maybe vanity does kick in a little bit, or you're walking at the mall and you walk by a door or by a window and you see your posture, you're like, oh my gosh, I need to be upright better. But that's why pictures are worth 1,000 words in that sense too, because it'll help you maybe guide you a little bit more about what to be watchful on.
Half jacks. What's a half jack?
Yes.
That's just what's a half
just
jack?
like you're doing the jumping part, but your arms just go right here, because some people don't want to like just be upright. Yeah, just a little half jack. Yeah,
all right,
little half arms,
gotcha.
but still the jumping part.
Named after Jack LaLanne. That's what a jumping jack is. Named after Jack LaLanne.
Really?
Is that friggin' awesome? Yeah,
I loved him. I thought he was so amazing.
Well, he was what a pioneer at a time when essentially none of us were thinking that it didn't matter. We should just, drink and smoke.
Right? There's no exercise needed. Martinis are what 5 o'clock means.
This guy Jack LaLanne showed up and said,
That's so good to know. Well, I learned something today too.
Oh, see, we're all getting a little bit smarter.
Yes.
So I want to get a little back into your sort of entrepreneurial venture, because I think we tend to think that that business or entrepreneurship is about these 5 founders that we talk about all the time who run the big gigantic companies, and that's not what most entrepreneurs are. I think of people in fields like chiropractic that are everywhere. So these are the people in our communities that are the businesses that are the economy. That also, though, brings with it a whole array of things that have nothing to do with chiropractic, right? You said in my office, and the people in my office, those are skills that they may not have taught you everything about when you were learning how to be a chiropractic practitioner. What's the stuff that just you couldn't believe or you couldn't fathom? What are the surprises that you feel like you got surprised, but you got good at?
Well, my grandmother raised me, and she was I'd say she was the perfect entrepreneur. She owned a nursing home, so she took care of old people. And so when I wanted to start my office, she's like, I had to promise her 2 things. I would never deny care to anyone. I would take care of old, young, athletic, not athletic, like no matter what, and I would never advertise. So she was very big on, if you did what you do well, then everybody will tell each other. And that's how you build a good business. And so I instilled that from the get-go. And I would say, like, I love that I have great patients that have been referred by other patients, or by like me being out in the community. Like, I try to know all of my neighbors here in that little shopping center that I'm in. I like to know, in 30 years, you learn a lot of people. But after 30 years, I look back and think that was the way to build a business that lasted 30 years. And I think, I was raised in the 80s and 90s where it was like the yellow pages were still a thing, right? And everybody wanted that first ad for chiropractic, Atlas Chiropractic, because that way it'd be the first one you would check. Well, like, sometimes those patients that we get aren't the greatest patients, and maybe they're not longevity patients. Well, I've got patients now, I'm seeing the second generation. I'm seeing their children and almost their grandchildren coming in. And I love that part of being an entrepreneur. But I've had to learn, I said, Parker made me a great chiropractor, but they didn't teach me a lick about business. And so some of that's been really by the grace of God. And like, I have a fabulous office manager who's been with me almost all 30 years. And she is great. And we've grown this together, and that she just makes, I don't have to worry about that stuff. She worries about the taxes. And again, that's not something that came in a class at Parker either. And so learning how to navigate the insurance world, and we still take insurance at my office, learning how, like, we just migrated our whole software system to, purely cloud server, learning how to do that now too. And so I'm doing my continuing education right now on the evenings, and like learning all the rules. Like, it's like every time I turn around, it's like, oh, we need you to add one more thing to your list of things to do, doctor. Like, another something. And you're like, okay, that it's sometimes daunting, but because I see the blessings of just making people feel well, or having a safe place they can come to if they don't feel good or they have questions, it makes it worth it. And so again, my staff is here. They're probably listening to this now, thinking I'm crazy and I'm just blabbing, about stuff. But I love that they understand how important patients are to us. That's what makes our business go. But also that it's kind of fun when you see them feel better.
The economy of the United States, 70+% of it is small businesses. You are the engine that runs the economy of this country and every state within it. I think we should honor that, the people who employ people, the people who make the actual things in our society work. So I give you applause today.
Oh, thank you. And I would love to help others. So we're in a little area called Highland Park. And so I'm in a shopping center where there's like-minded. So like small businesses that are family owned or ran. So we try to give them business. And again, it like reciprocates times 10 because, you go in there, oh, let me introduce you to so-and-so. And so like again, word of mouth, and you get good people that want to take care of each other. And I love that part.
Apparently, Mark Cuban says you're easy to talk to. I would agree with that. It's been delightful for us to spend a little time talking about our health, talking about your business. And I always end by asking people if they can help me curate information better, because we're in an information society when it comes to health or chiropractic, or maybe just in your life. What's something you can give me as a tip to be a better curator of my information?
Well, I'm a big fan of AI. I think it's got a place in our system. But I think too many people, oh no, let me put in my symptoms and see what I have. I'd say maybe not decide that the computer's going to tell you what's wrong with you or what medication to take or how to do things, but to look around your neighborhood and find those people. I would say that the hairdressers are the wealth of information. If you ever need a medical provider or something good, they will know the good ones and will know the bad ones. But to talk to your community and that's where I think it comes from. I think it becomes not just a list of oh, here's your, the doctors we refer to, but it's like, oh, somebody told us this guy was great and their staff is good. I think the people should be our source. Now, of course, if you want specifics, like I am there's always a lecture or a journal, but I'm learning to appreciate the podcast. Like I said, I'm learning things from you, like learning how to do stuff. And I think to find the ones that aren't just driven by advertisement, but driven truly by the people, I think it's a great wealth of information.
Well, you can't beat that as a way
No,
to end.
at all.
Dr. Mary Collings, thank you for joining us today. I hope you'll come back and we can talk more once I get some more sleep.
Oh, okay. Perfect. We can talk about that soon. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's been lovely.